Hello everyone, how are you doing today? This is Nick from the Casually Hardcore Podcast bringing you yet another video, and today's topic is going to be about Titanfall 2 with our review. I know that I am super late to the party with this review, considering this game came out back in 2016 and it's now been a full year since release, but what better time than to cover a hidden gem that unfortunately released in between two juggernaut titles being Battlefield and Call of Duty. If it wasn't for the fact that this game was released in between two giant marketing campaigns, Titanfall 2 would have been easily one of the best games of the year, and it personally is. For those who have played it and for those who have not, Titanfall 2 is an absolute masterpiece made by those who unfortunately used to make up Infinity Ward, which ironically enough were the creators of Call of Duty, and Call of Duty was one of the games that overshadowed. But let's hop into the review. I cannot wait to discuss my personal thoughts and opinions and what made the game for me in such an amazing experience. So diving into the campaign portion of this review, I will give you a forewarning that this portion does contain spoilers, so if you wish to play the campaign in its entirety spoiler free, please tune back in later after playing the campaign or skip ahead to the multiplayer portion, or if you don't care about spoilers, then it doesn't matter to you. With the forewarnings out of the way, unlike the first game, you do not start out as a pilot and you do not play as both factions this time around. You specifically play as the Frontier Militia. And as you do so, you don't play as a pilot, you play as a grunt originally who's training to become a pilot. So it's an interesting take seeing the grunt aspect, considering in the first game you played as this overpowered pilot, kind of consider it to like a Spartan fighting against like grunts and elites. But now you get to see the kind of fears of everything that the Titanfall world has to offer. And in the first mission of this campaign, your trainer who's training you to become a Titan dies because he's surrounded by Apex Predator Titans, which are also some of the new Titans introduced to this game, which I'll cover later in the multiplayer portion. But unfortunately your trainer dies, and now you are stranded with the guy's Titan, who now has a personality of its own, and the Titan is called BT. And over the course of the campaign, you and this Titan start to bond together. You become more defined with the abilities and skills for each other, and it's very much a very smooth transition. It's not very forced, unlike most multiplayer shooter campaigns nowadays. Now don't get me wrong, there is a lot of Hollywood elements included in this campaign, from a lot of giant set pieces to you running around and destroying entire ships and squadrons and battalions, but that's just part of the overall campaign, and I believe that's also the style of the original Infinity Ward. However, the difference here is that your character progression in terms of the relationship with BT and your relationship with you becoming a kind of unorthodox pilot is phenomenal. It gets to the point too, when you are stranded on this planet with the survivors trying to fight off the IMC, the commander even says, hey, I'm going to get BT a new pilot, and the BT unit requests that you keep Jack Cooper yourself and become a certified pilot. And you become a pilot through these tests, and it's really, really cool to see the relationship develop between you and the fellow soldiers, and then respecting you as a pilot, and you even fight with a pilot squadron, and then also seeing the relationship with you and BT. Unfortunately, at the end, like every Infinity Ward campaign or now Respawn campaign, the character you love the most dies, and BT sacrifices himself to save you. However, at the end of the campaign, there is a little Easter egg teaser where I believe you still have the AI of BT, or you have a portion of him still. So when Titanfall 3 eventually releases, I don't know if they'll continue the character like they did with Captain Price in Call of Duty 4. Who knows, but the characters are amazing. They're very fleshed out. There's not much filler in terms of characters that are throwaways or throwaway villains. Even with the sub-tier bosses or mini villains that are very much cannon fodder in terms of you progressing and learning abilities and getting new guns, they each have their own persona and different aesthetics that make them truly unique and stand out from the original grunts that you've been fighting throughout the certain levels. And you have enough time with these mini bosses to kind of develop a understanding of what their characters like and why they do what they do. For instance, one of the characters you fight is Russian-esque, and he's very arrogant, likes to throw his Titan around, and you see, so when you fight him, that's his fight style as well. Respawn efficiently created their levels in a way that blends the gameplay style of the bosses and the level alongside their personalities, so it blends very well and it makes the experience overall believable. And when you fight these bosses, you have a sense of achievement and like, man, I'm glad I killed them, I've saved a bunch of my guys. So there is the reasoning to do so. A lot of games now, I feel like you kill an enemy because the game tells you to, or because the game makes him a bad guy. You actually get to see why these villains are bad, and at the end of it all, you fight Blisk, who was a mercenary in the first game, which was cool to see him back, side note there. But you only get to see that he's in it for the money in terms of his loyalty to the IMC. Before, it was very much dedicated to the IMC. Now you see it that he's only in it for himself after the IMC sacrificed the majority of its forces in the first campaign's ending as well. And in this campaign's ending, when the IMC is threatening to destroy the entire planet and fleet through this giant laser beam, which science, you see that he kind of gives up and lets you do it because he doesn't have enough money or incentive to actually see the mission through. So wrapping up at least the campaign portion in terms of progression with your character and the levels and story, it's unanimously across the board perfection. It's about a 6-hour campaign. And in those 6 hours, there was not a single time where I really truly was like, you know what, I'll give this another break. I could not put the controller down. I had to force myself to do other things because it was so good. It kept hooking you after every level's little transition scene. You're like, damn, I want to play it more. So the campaign, if you're a campaign nut, this game is exclusively for you in terms of a great sci-fi campaign with great characters, great levels, great atmosphere too, great set pieces, and overall a ton of fun. So with that wrapping up the campaign portion of this review, let's dive into the multiplayer component where a large majority of my time was spent, considering I bought this game for the multiplayer and not the campaign, funny enough. But with Titanfall 1 being exclusively multiplayer and the reason why I love the game was for it, I just dived into multiplayer in the 2 right away. And to say off the bat, the multiplayer is a huge upgrade over the first one in terms of just adding way more content, way more Titans, way more guns. And the only complaint that I had in the first game was there's just a lack of content, and Titanfall 2's multiplayer delivers on that promise on all fronts. Titanfall 1 fell short with its content. It only had a few Titans and very few weapons. It had a very limited selection of what you can unlock. Titanfall 2 quadruples the amount of content with that, adding several Titans for free in the main game. And then on top of that, you also get these Apex Edition or Prime Edition versions of certain Titans as well, so it adds the additional count, which is amazing because the aesthetics on those new Titans are phenomenal. And then each character and pilot and Titan has its own aesthetic tree where you can unlock a ton of skins for free. Now that microtransaction crap in terms of loot boxes, you literally just unlock at the in-game challenges. And another side note on that as well, the microtransactions are pay for what you want. So they added some really cool premium skins. You literally just buy it outright and you get it. There's no system in which you do a loot box and have to gamble to get it. If you want it, you buy it and you get it right away, and I love that. And that's another reason why I love this game so much, is the microtransactions are very basic and simple. And all the DLC for the majority of this game was free, except for a purchase of premium stuff here and there to help supplement the DLC season. So if you're worrying that Titanfall 2 might not have enough content to satisfy you, rest assured that Titanfall 2 is full of unlocked trees and progression systems to keep you right at home and keep you coming back on the multiplayer. So diving into the Titan portion of this review, the Titans in this game are absolutely phenomenal. Like in the previous game where you only had 3, this time around I believe you have 7 to 9 Titans, and each Titan has its own abilities and unique skill sets that define why you should use it. Like the Raijin one has the samurai sword in which you can do up close combat. There are some Titans where they have jetpack abilities where you have air domination. They have the standard Titans from the first game in which they're just overall balanced in terms of attack, defense, and speed. So you have a nice variety of Titans, and you have the ability to branch out and check out different ones depending on your play style. So just that alone, in terms of figuring out which Titan looks best for you, will keep you hours and hours and hours on end. And on top of that, unlike the first game, again, where you only had 3 classes of pilots, I think you have 6 now that have certain abilities. Like you can have a camo one that you are invisible, you have a one that does the jetpacking around the map and it has more mobility, one that has greater offensive weapons. So like the Titans, the pilots are basically around the similar aesthetic in terms of each one will be handcrafted to certain playstyles of multiplayer competitive players. So with that portion of the multiplayer review wrapped up, let's dive into the maps here real quick. Titanfall 2 delivers across the board on having a nice blend of remastered Titanfall 1 maps alongside campaign repurposed locations and brand new locations for the multiplayer section of the game. Each map is fine-tuned with beautiful aesthetics, great locales, and great environmental damages that make you really feel in the Titanfall universe. And on top of that, the gameplay flow of each map is almost perfect unanimously across the board. The choke points on each map, the way the map flows, and the way that each battle commences depending on which game mode you are in, it's almost perfect. Infinity Ward / Respawn was always the kings of making great multiplayer, and Titanfall 2 is at the top of their portfolio in terms of delivering a great online experience for each user. So as we wrap up this review here, I'm going to talk about my personal thoughts. Titanfall 2 is an amazing game. I'm going to go out and say it's a 9 out of 10 on my personal scale, and it rates way higher than the first one. The campaign included in this game was excellent, amazing, and kept me hooked. The multiplayer version was a huge upgrade over the first one, which is more content, and it also didn't have microtransactions. And I know, unfortunately, that's something that I have to rate now in terms of a lot of games nowadays, and for something to have actual true DLC in terms of you buy it just because you want it. It's very, very old school now, even though that didn't happen for very long, but it's a good, refreshing way to see that these developers aren't supportive of the money greed that is currently happening in the AAA industry. So my recommendations are go out and buy this game. If you have GCU at Best Buy, you get this game for $16 to $12. And if you don't, this game sells for about $20 for its deluxe version and $15 for its standard version. Or if you have Xbox and EA Access, this game is now free for you to try out. So go ahead, pick this game up, and give it a shot. It is phenomenal. There is a huge multiplayer base still alive, so if you're worried that you might not be able to find a match, rest assured you will be able to find matches on almost every playlist. On that final note, thank you for tuning in to this review. I really enjoyed making and sharing my love for a very underrated gem in this generation of consoles. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down, or maybe a comment or share depending on how you want to interact with us today. But as always, I'm Nick. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.